I wasn't budgeting. What was that? I just the money came in and the money went out. I was one of those people who would say I don't have enough month left after my money because I wasn't seeing it. I got to a point where I set myself a target to clear £10,000 of consumer debt in 6 months.
Wow.
So it's something that I feel that it needs to be recognised that it's not a matter of how much money you have; it's what you do with it.
True.
How you manage that money. But I'm not saying take everything that's in your account and give it to everyone on the street who's homeless. But what I'm trying to say is, in ways that you can empower someone or invest in someone in some way, it could be very small. Giving to somebody else was showing that you trust that it's going to come back to you.
Hello and welcome to Not Another Money Podcast. Why is it called Not Another Money Podcast, you may be wondering? It's because this is not your typical money show. Get ready for real money conversations and lessons, expert insights from some of our very special guests, and hear some really inspiring stories from everyday people. On this podcast, you're going to learn how to earn more, how to spend less, how to grow the difference, and most importantly, live your best financial life. Hi, Char. How are you doing? Welcome to Not Another Money Podcast.
Thanks for having me on.
No, thank you so much for coming down today. I'm really excited for today's conversation. It's going to be absolutely amazing.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it.
So before we kick off and do all the fun, exciting stuff on the show and have the deep conversation we're going to have, what I would like to do, my guest, is a little bit of an icebreaker. So it's a little bit of a game, and it's a game of Would You Rather. So I'm going to give you a few options, and then you're going to say, would you rather A or B? So I'll say a scenario, and I'll give you two options for that scenario. You just pick the one that you resonate with the most. Okay.
It should be fun.
Yeah, no, it will be. So would you rather, it's a simple one, I guess, would you rather have more time or more money?
I would say time. Even though I'm not a mindset coach, I would say time because time is one thing on bank.
Right.
Money, if you have your situation check, you can obviously make sure you have more money. But time, you can't get it back.
Yeah, I'd definitely go with more time. Because I feel like there's not enough hours in the day to do all I want to do. So
literally.
if I have more time, maybe 28 hours a day, that would be brilliant. So
But we'll still find a way to fill them 28 hours, won't we?
We definitely will. There's always something to be done.
There's always something to be done. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Next one. Would you rather get rich through really hard work or through winning the lottery?
See, the easy option for me to say is a lottery, but I think the hard work, because that way I appreciate it more.
Yes.
And I can reflect back of where I've come from. So I think all the lessons I've learned from my struggle and situations not having money will help me when I do have money. So I would say work for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would go for that too. Because as much as it would be amazing to win the lottery, I think you don't appreciate it as much, like you said, when it's just kind of handed to you on a plate. I think
Definitely.
the journey is the beautiful part of life, isn't it? It's the going through the highs, the lows, the learning, and all the rest of it. So I think I would go for that too. But that being said, I'm sure if there was a bag of £1 million right in front of me, I don't know.
Just grab it. Exactly. Yeah. But I think as a logical way of thinking, it makes sense to go for the journey, right?
Exactly.
And I think we don't appreciate the journey, like you said, until we get to the other side. So I think you're missing out on that if we just give them the bag of money.
Exactly.
And you probably squander it in a couple of seconds because you have no learning, no understanding of managing it. Which is why we often see people win the lottery and then you don't hear nothing about them after that.
That's
because
very true. You've heard
didn't
so
do
many
anything
of
with
those
it
stories.
afterwards that made sense. And, that was meaningful. So
It's true. Yeah. So no, we're in agreement.
We're on the same
that one
page.
as well.
Good.
Yeah,
Nice.
I like that one. Okay, let's see. Number 3. Would you rather live your life financially comfortable or live like a millionaire for 20 years and then be poor for the rest of your life?
What's the first one again?
So would you rather live your life financially comfortable?
Yes.
Or live your life like a millionaire for 20 years,
right,
and then the rest of it be flat out broke?
That's a hard one because I'm a true believer of no matter what you have, you can make it work.
True.
So in those 20 years, you can put systems in place to make sure you're okay, you're comfortable in those other years if you're smart.
Yeah.
And just accept the fact that you had money and you enjoyed it, but now it's time to just live off your minimum and live within your means. But the first option is the first one that makes you think, that's what you're used to. That's what most people experience, and that's just the mundane. So I'm tempted to go the second one, just fancy just where it would take me, what I could do in those 20 years that'd be meaningful to help me for those other years and years in my life.
But you're not allowed to be helped for those other years. That you have to be flat out broke.
Okay, all right, flat out broke, but then I could do things that can help others and support me in ways that makes my life fulfilling. Because I think you can make your life fulfilling in other ways, not just only financially. So depending on what I do in those 20 years will depend on what those other years look like. So I think I'll go with that one.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think I go for.
Yeah, what do you feel? It's a hard one, isn't it? It's a hard one. Yeah, it is a hard one, I feel. That's the hardest for me.
It is, yeah. Because financially comfortable would be great. Because what does that's quite ambiguous as well. Because what is financially comfortable?
Yes,
it's relative, isn't it? So I'm like, financially comfortable can be with close to $1 million.
Yeah, and if it's that, then that sounds more attractive, right? Yeah, we need
think,
to know the figures we're talking about. Yeah, what's the figures for the first one and the 20 years?
yeah,
How much money do I really have? You know,
exactly.
I think that will help in the understanding. But yeah, I think the first one sounds the most, one that makes sense. But I think, yeah, just thinking what you could do in those 20 years, it
Mm,
could be really powerful to help you help others and yourself in other ways, enriching your life.
yeah,
Maybe not financially.
that's good. And the
Mm.
last one then is, would you rather be a little late or be way too
Well, I'd love to say that I'd rather be way too early, but I have a reputation of being
early?
late.
Yeah.
I think I try to fit way too much in before I
Mm,
go anywhere. So I could often be like, yeah, I say to my son, which is very hypocritical, I say to him, if you're on time, you're late. Because otherwise,
true.
you should be just before time to make
Yeah.
sure you settled in on the time. But for myself, I don't obviously practice what I preach in that way. So I would say the options are either being late or what was it? Remind me, late or
Uh, Would you rather be a little bit
little bit
late?
late.
Yeah, or way too early?
Okay, little bit late. I'm gonna go a little bit late.
Yeah,
It's not late, little bit late.
a little bit late.
Hmm.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think I would go with late. I'm that person. I don't mind arriving to places like a little bit late, but being extra early really annoys me. I don't like being the first
Yes.
person at someone's birthday dinner, for
You
example,
tell me
and
about
then
it.
waiting an hour for everyone else to
To
arrive.
come
Yeah,
and help setting up. You might
exactly.
as well just be part of everyone that's setting up and doing part of the team of cleaning and all the rest of it and
Yeah,
putting the food out. I think the sense of culture we have a thing about time anyway,
yeah,
but I think that you're right. When you come too early, for me, I'm all thinking of things I could have been doing in that time, and I'm start
exactly.
beating myself. I should have done or I should have left out.
Yeah,
So the any time I have been late, I'm sorry, early, too early, hasn't really worked in my favor. So I think that's probably why I just stick to
yeah.
aim for the
Just
time.
trying to be there
You know,
at the time.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
close
that just
enough to the time.
works.
Yeah,
Yeah, then we're not
exactly.
wasting no one's time.
Exactly. No. Okay, thank you so much for playing that game with me, Shah. Okay, so the next thing we like to do on the
Hmm.
show before we dive into the main heart of the conversation is I like to ask my guests for them to share a money moment. So on Not Another
Mm.
Money podcast, we like to share not another money moment. And
Hmm.
the money moment is something significant that's impacted you at one point of your life, whether it's like from a young age
Yeah.
or later on in life, that's a significant money memory that you want to share with us.
Yeah. I think the main thing that comes to mind is my story in the sense of how I became a money mindset coach.
Okay.
Um, I basically was going paycheck to paycheck, not seeing none of my money. And, I really need to make a change of living on credit. I was just getting bombarded with deals coming through the door of your offers on credit cards and not really understanding that to pay that back with interest on top. And I think I'm not alone when I say I went to school with no financial education, left understanding algebra and fractions, but not understanding APRs or interest rates. So I got caught. I got caught out and living a luxury lifestyle with no idea or plan of how I was going to pay it back. And I think it wasn't until I became a parent that made me realize I need to make a change. And I had circumstances in my relationship that changed. And I thought, you know what? If I don't get on top of this, we're going to be in a situation.
Mm,
So I had to really pull back on expenses and, the designer clothes I was buying, even for the children. Crazy thinking about it now, what I was spending on clothes and going out and doing things that, you love to do, but not on my own money. Those things
mm,
are great, but in your own money and, you've deserved it because you've worked for it or saved for it. But this was from credit. And, that felt very uncomfortable for me. And I felt almost ashamed about it, really, because I didn't actually realize till I did my journey and spoke about it with other people that many women were similar circumstances. And I realized that many of us emotionally spend. We
mm,
connect our circumstances to how we interact with money.
yeah.
And I realized that I was doing what I was doing purely for the fact of kind of filling the gap of what was missing in my life at the time.
Yeah.
So, I realized I had to just have a real conversation with myself and realize I had to
Mm,
change the circumstance. And that's only going to happen from my determination to make a change.
yeah.
So I'll say that's the most, I guess we're going into a bit more detail through the
Yeah.
session, but that for me was the one moment I feel like, yeah, money's talking to me
Yeah.
and it's at now or this could go a whole different direction for me, which I didn't want for my children.
Yeah.
As we know, as parents, they learn from us seeing and doing, not really what we
Exactly.
tell them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So for them, I had to make that
Yeah,
change.
no, that's amazing that you were able to make that change. And like you said, we will dive into that a lot
Yeah.
more
Hmm.
as this conversation goes. And I think that's a perfect entry actually to the conversation that we're going to have.
Okay.
If you could share a little bit more about your debt
Hmm.
story. So you mentioned obviously you were spending on credit cards and things of that nature. But
Mm.
if you could just take us back a few years ago
Hmm.
or how many years
Oh,
ago
we're
it
talking a
was,
while back. Yeah,
a
it's
while
probably
back.
when my eldest was young, like toddler age. He's now
Okay.
22,
Okay,
23
okay, okay.
actually,
So
just
it's
the
a
other
while
day.
ago, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, early in my journey, I would say. But it was over a few years that I accumulated that debt. So it
Okay.
wasn't really just, in a splurge moment. It was
Yeah.
over a few years and then didn't take action too much later on down the line. The consumer debt, it just became a thing of a pattern of me just spending whenever I felt like I needed to fulfill things or I wanted to make sure my children were receiving what I felt like I wasn't giving them maybe in other ways. So it was spending on, anything they wanted. As I mentioned, designer wear, even nights out for myself when I was just having my own time, my fun time, was spending over what I should be, not having a clear budget of what my expenses were. And I was working, not to say I was, had my own money coming in, but because I had no financial education, I didn't know how to manage that money. I
Yeah.
wasn't budgeting. What was that? Just the money came in and the money went out. I was one of those people who would say, I don't have enough month left after my money because I wasn't seeing it.
Yeah.
So it would go straight on the bills and everything was covered in that way. But when it come to that additional of what I wanted, I was to make sure I go straight for the credit cards. I wasn't thinking twice. And the catalogs and when they getting offers and say, pay in 12 months, I wasn't really listening to the 12 months. I was literally going over that. So paying much more for anything that I was borrowing on or the consumer debt that I was actually creating. So I got to a point where I set myself a target to clear £10,000 of consumer debt in 6 months.
Wow.
That was not easy at all. It really, really caused me to pull back in so many ways. We had to make cutbacks in our ingoes and outgoings. And I had to meet with a financial advisor because I realised I just didn't have the tools or understanding to do it on my own. So I was taught techniques of how to do that in different ways. We use techniques such as the snowball effect.
Yes.
Yeah, we kind
Yeah.
of pay for the smallest and then build up with the other credits. But more for me, I think it was the journey of my mindset as well that changed. I really had a real, as I said, a real talk conversation with myself about what I was doing and the reasoning why, and understanding the limiting beliefs that I was creating about money as well.
Yeah.
What I was telling myself about money, and I don't think I really understood that until I now could be at this place now and see what I was doing. So it's been amazing to work with so many women since that and see similar patterns. Which is why I relate so much to women. Some people may say, why just women? But I think we do spend differently.
Yes.
We connect emotionally. And people often assume that the man of the house or, the males have a better understanding about money. It's not the case,
Not
is it?
often.
No,
No.
it's
No.
not. I mean, it's crazy that we have this idea because, women are much more risk averse. When we interact with money, we think better about what we're going to do before we do it, and we weigh things up more. We might take our time a bit more, but we will weigh up first before we make a decision. And a woman can have limited income, be on benefits and so forth. She can have luxury and be a high-paying job, and regardless of that, she'll make sure her children are fed most of the time when things are right in her mind. She'll make sure her children are fed, they're clothed, and the children might not even understand or know that they don't have. I didn't grow up in a household that we had lots of money coming in, but I never knew any different. My mum made sure of that. So I think when it comes to how we interact with money, we can really be more empowered if we have the right understanding and education. And often that's the only thing that's really missing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of a bit of how my journey started and how I got to a point of starting to take action.
Yeah.
A bit of mindset, a bit of practical.
So I guess for me, I'm really interested to learn what it was that made that shift. So imagine you've been a certain way for so long and you acquired all that debt, and then all of a sudden you now decided to change course and actually tackle that debt. So what was it that was like the final straw that broke the camel's back, or what was
Yeah.
the point of revelation that made you think, actually, I need to get on top of this?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it was the responsibility of being for other people. It wasn't just about me anymore. I had to think about how my actions would be impacting my family. And as I mentioned, I had a change in circumstance in my relationship. So I didn't have access to two incomes anymore. I had access to one. I became a single parent. So I had to really think about how what I'm doing is now going to have a change of what they can receive. And obviously, I've always been supported in the sense of financial elements from my children's father in that way. So that continued. But me having my own and confidence and understanding of the household and how it was run, and me teaching my children for when they start making their own money, how they manage that money, it was important for me to make a good good choices in that way. Also, the fact I think is because I identified along my journey of how I was interacting with money, when I was getting those urges and splurges to spend. It wasn't something I was doing all the time. It seemed to always be when I wasn't feeling fulfilled in other areas and other ways that I needed to do something to make myself feel better. And for me, that was costing more problems over time than actually fulfilling that particular moment. So that, I think, looking back, made me realize that. I mean, it doesn't happen overnight. It was a reflective journey I had to take, and a difficult one as well. But I think part of me, because I've qualified in roles such as NLP coaching and so forth, I became understanding of that journey of self-reflection first. I don't think anyone
What's
really
NLP coaching?
So it's neuro linguistic programming. Bit of a mouthful, but basically it means changing the way you basically do something, and programming your mind to think differently about the actions you're taking. So understanding the point you're at and where the point you want to be, but how we're going to help you to get from point A to point B through clear steps and behavior changes over time. And I think training, understanding that helped me to apply it to myself, because I'm a true believer you can't coach anyone unless you can coach, have coaching yourself and understand yourself first. So I had to go through that journey. And part of that was working with a financial advisor, which was the practical side. But the NLP coaching also helped me to look internally about my own processes as well.
Amazing.
So that kind of brought together my journey really of starting to share that with others and help others as well.
So you mentioned that you spoke to a financial advisor and you also did the NLT.
NLP.
NLP, sorry. NLP.
It's a mouthful to
Yeah,
say, so
yeah,
it's NLP.
NLP. Coaching. So all of that kind of helped you with your mindset. In terms of the steps, what did that look like? Like, how were you able to pay off such a big amount within 6 months?
First and foremost, it was the drawbacks. It was the cutbacks on the outgoings that we was spending. And I had to really sit down and look at my bank statements over the last 3 months.
Oh, what was that like?
It was scary because what I thought I was spending, it wasn't that. And it's funny, actually, that's happened every time I meet with somebody.
Yeah.
They're always like, oh no, I know how much I'm spending. What they say and what it is like
Always
completely different.
Yeah.
And it's most of the time it's around to those non-essential spends. You go to the shop and I'm just going to get milk, and you end up with 2-3 bags. And cost of living right now is not a joke.
Exactly.
So
those 2-3 bags are very expensive.
It's very expensive compared to what it used to be. Yeah. So cost of living is not changing. There's always inflation. So I think often what we think we're spending is not necessarily the case. And for that reason, I was shocked. I was really, really shocked when I saw what I was actually thought I was spending, what I was spending. So for making changes such as cutting back on outgoings wasn't necessary, being disciplined about how much nights out and takeouts we had, different things like just thinking about different outgoings I had, subscriptions, what I wasn't using, getting rid of those. So just day-to-day behaviours that I was doing, it was just a norm and I wasn't thinking twice and not really noticing those outgoings, I changed. Also, I was giving myself a weekly expenditure. So what I would do is I'd transfer the weekly amount onto a separate card, and I wasn't allowed to touch anything in the other account. If that run out, that's you. That's it. It's no going back. And I really found that hard at first. And again, I was telling myself, first of all, you don't need to do this. The money's there. Just use it. It's almost like your brain playing games with you. If I didn't have it, I didn't have it. But because I knew I had it in the other account, I thought, well, why not? But I had to train myself to say no. Discipline. I had to learn the discipline. So for me, that was the biggest journey of all, the sense of what I learned was about the discipline. And then the practical side, as I mentioned about the snowball effect.
Yeah.
So just to explain it for those who don't know, it's basically when you take the smallest debt, you list all your debts down, you take the smallest debt, basically paying into that smallest debt. Once that's cleared, you then take the amount you're paying from that smallest debt and include it to the next one that you're going to pay on the list. But the most important thing is not just thinking about paying that minimum payment, because that's doing nothing at all. And that's what I was doing for a long time.
Yeah.
I'll be asked, but are you paying your bills? Yeah, I'm paying them. How much are you paying?
Not even covering the interest.
Exactly. Not even covering the interest or just over that. So when they're ready to slap their next month interest on top, it's not done. It's not making any differences. So I was never getting out of that debt. It was just rolling and the interest was increasing. So I had to make a change, as I said. So I literally had an amount that I agreed that was from the amount that I was expending in the non-essentials that I put on top of those outgoings. So it wasn't just the minimum anymore, and paid that additional amount on top that helped me to pay them off quicker and then roll it into the next on the list and add the amount I was paying for the previous card onto the next one as well, and then keep going till all of them were cleared over 10 months.
And
6 months.
And at the beginning of the journey, when you started that, I'm sure you never anticipated to clear it so fast.
No, I was just like, that just sounds... Even the maths of it, I was just like, I don't know if I could do that. And also I was thinking, cheekily, well, once I've cleared the first one, why am I going to add it to the next one? Why can't I now spend that additional...
I've got extra money now.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
It was like, no, let's make sure we stay on track. Because I realised by doing that, I could do, but it wouldn't clear it as quick as I wanted it to. And I had a clear goal in mind. Let me just get rid of this in 6 months. I didn't want the long game. You can do it longer, but I felt doing it quicker meant that I was past that period. I fully understand what I was doing wrong. Now let me move forward with better understanding it and, start my journey. So, that's basically what I used to get on top of things. And I managed to pull back the savings on what I was spending. It was about £1,000, just over £1,000 each month.
Wow.
Additional what was going out. The cutbacks
on things
really,
like eating out.
Eating out, change of routine. And it didn't mean that, I wasn't able to do stuff. As I mentioned, we were, but we was doing things more creatively, might have fun around the house instead of going out all the time. The takeout nights, I was buying burgers and buns from the supermarket instead and doing it indoors instead. So just being creative about what we was doing or reducing the amount what we was doing, that made a massive difference.
And congratulations again for doing that in such a short space of time, because I can't imagine it was easy. And that leads me on to my next question in terms of that process, that 6 months. I know it was a short space of time, but when you were in it probably didn't feel like that quick or that
Tell me
short an
about
amount of
it.
time. So what were any of the challenges that you kind of face on that debt-free journey?
The main challenge is, I think, is just accepting where I was, and I feel like I was probably a bit of a spot brat because I was fighting myself in my head, saying, "Well, you got it, just spend it. If you want it, just have it. Life's too short." All those sort of things, putting myself off.
Yeah.
So I had to learn, as I mentioned earlier, the discipline, because I think I've never really been disciplined in that way before. If I want something, I'm just going to have it. I'm very much a person that just loves to live. I'm a serial traveler. I love to travel as well. So that was another part that was going a lot on the expenditure. It's just I was putting holidays on the credit cards and so forth. And now I feel so great that every time we travel, I've paid for that. I've saved for it. I've put goals in place. I've got pots of money that's for our travel every year. So before the travel comes, I already know that I've got the money available. So I think the journey really taught me about being disciplined, being organized with your money, and also just having a conversation with yourself and being realistic about what you can do. You might want to pay for something outright, but if it's not possible right now, then if you've made a plan towards that in a certain amount of months, having a clear goal, is that now achievable? Yeah, it is. And that's often what we don't use. We don't use the time to plan ahead. So that taught me that the fact that I can do what I want to do right now, maybe next week, no, but with a clear plan and a goal in place, it's achievable.
Yeah. And any other lessons that you learned on that debt-free journey that you want to share?
Yeah, I think maybe just mainly the self development, as I said to you, around that, that reflective part about how women spend. I think I highlighted that on my journey, and when I started working with others, it made me realize that I wasn't alone.
Yes.
Many women experience that the same and were emotionally spending and getting themselves in situations from that emotional spending. So it forced me to recognize where the gaps were or unfulfillment I felt in my life and just deal with it head on.
Yeah.
And then by fulfilling that need elsewhere, then I wouldn't necessarily feel like I need to be spending and getting myself in problems.
Talk to us a little bit about what made you then transition into being a money mindset coach, and even before you share that, actually what you was doing career wise before and what made you do this transition.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, the NLP coaching is basically any type of coaching, anything you want to change a certain behavior and a sense of time frames of how you're going to do that, and getting yourself in a pattern of recognize your behavior and moving towards a place where you've changed that. So you can do that in any area of life, and I think I linked that very much transferable skills from my social work degree that I have as well. So understand about supporting others to make change and having a clear plan around that. Those transferable skills came into my coaching journey. So I think that having all of that understanding helped me when I started to create She's All About the Money, to become a money mindset coach, because I took what the key areas that I learned from different parts of what I was doing previously to build on that and then create my 3 principles, which is around money relationship, money mindset, and then those money boss tools, which is practical tools. Because I'm a true believer of the mindset alone is not enough. Mindset with no tools or practical idea to take action is just wishful thinking.
Yeah.
And often people just assume that, or say it doesn't make sense to them or it doesn't work, but they don't realize it's because you're just thinking that you need to think wishfully and it's going to land on your lap.
Yeah.
And that's not the case. So I think by teaching the 3 principles that I have has helped women to face their limiting beliefs, unlock their potential, understanding how they can relate to money and invite more money into life by changing their behaviors, but also the practical tools they need to believe in themselves to make that change as well.
Yeah. And what would you say some of the common challenges that you've noticed are a running thread? I know you've kind of touched on the fact that a lot of women are emotional spenders. Well, is there anything else that you notice as a common theme when you're having conversations with the ladies you're coaching?
Yeah, I think accepting what those limiting beliefs are and
Okay.
accepting the messages that we've picked up along our journey in life about
Yeah.
money. So the subconscious messages we hear growing up, childhood, as we become an adult, maybe around peers, what we hear about money growing up, we don't realize that's subconsciously over time creating a pattern of how we interact with money or what we believe about money. So when we dive deeper into the sessions, we have a 6-month program, and when we deep into the sessions, is focusing on that, going back. Tell me about money was like when you was growing up. How did you interact with money? Was you seeing letters come through the door and adults arguing? Was you seeing that every time there was money around, everybody was happy? What kind of feelings did you connect with your experiences of money growing up? Because that ultimately had an impact without realizing it. And I think when we go through that journey, that's when it helps us to actually realize, that's probably why I always say things like, I never have enough, or I wish I could have that, but it's not for me. Or,
Mm.
they may have heard things growing up such as money doesn't grow on trees.
Oh yeah,
We've
gosh.
all heard that one,
We've all
right?
heard that one. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, those sort of messages create a pattern of behavior over time. And I think breaking that down and helping someone to realize that that's where it may be coming from, the decision they're making now, is a real aha moment. And I think that's when people then, when they accept that, are able to start making a change towards it because they realize where it's come from.
Yeah.
And also, what I like ask clients to do sometimes is think about when they say they don't see where the money's going, they don't know where the expenses are going. I ask them to then track their expenses. So 30 days, just every time you pull out that card,
Yeah.
every time you're spending that cash in your pocket, track it, write it all down, and tell me the amount that you thought you were spending
Yeah.
is exactly what you get at the end of that 30 days. And it's always completely different. That session is really interesting because they'll really come back and be like, they're very surprised at how much they're spending and not realizing, like we spoke earlier about, cost of living. So I think in everything that every person I'm working with, those two themes seems to always come up. People that are struggling with situations such as debt and so forth, there's often that feeling of shame, and maybe hiding avoidance as well, avoidant behavior. So thinking that they just put their heads in the sand or just ignore it and keep paying that minimum, it keeps them off their back.
Yeah.
They can just get on with their life and enjoy the rest of their money they have coming in, but not realizing by doing it that way, it kind of stays with them for years and years and years, more than it needs to. So, taking action and recognizing I'm not happy with that situation is, what we need to do in order to get us to help me to get them to the next level. But that accountability and support is often what people overlook.
Yes.
Because you can tell me what your issues are. I can say, yeah, try this, try that. I walk away, you walk away, and then what happens?
Yeah, exactly.
No one's holding you accountable to what you say you're going to do.
True.
So when working with people as a coach, I think the best part I like is the fact that them knowing that I'm holding them accountable. When we come back together, we can look at what's changed or look at what's, what they may have need to tweak, but they didn't actually get to where they wanted to. Okay, well, then let's try this and set clear goals as well. It helps them along their journey.
And what would you say is the best part of your job as a money mindset coach?
Oh, it's got to be the results.
Yeah.
I love hearing the results. I love to hear, it's one thing to see something in somebody, but them to see it themselves, that's a whole different thing. So sometimes I can see as we're working together, the changes, small changes. Often because we see the small ones, we don't really give it any rating, but I'm seeing it. And the change of responses to certain tasks that I'm suggesting or certain challenges to do. And then over time, you've got from that small step that they've taken towards the end of our 6 months working together, it's a brand new outlook of life, a brand new outlook of how they can manage and that confidence of understanding finances and that financial education we spoke about earlier. So for me, it's got to be the impact of seeing those testimonials and seeing those changes working with people. Yeah.
That's amazing. And do you find that after the 6 months working with you that they're able to keep those new habits that they've learned going?
So that's the bit about the accountability and support that I was saying. Yeah. So, I think I've had situations where people have made that main big goal that they wanted to within that time, and then they feel that they're able to just go back to what they was doing afterwards. So I've had a few people that's come back to me afterwards, like a follow-up session that they booked on, just to reassess and review the sense of where they was and what they was hoping to achieve. Because at the end of our session together, we look at the goal setting, not just for that period, but maybe about the next 12 months. So we look at short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals. So it may be within that medium one that is past our time working together, or the long-term ones past our time. So we just look at, okay, so is this still on track? Is this still what we was talking about when we finished, and you was at that point so excited and believing in yourself, because as we know, life will always be life in.
Exactly.
It's always going to happen, right? And things will always take place to put you off track. So that's why I keep going back to that discipline and determination, because if you don't have that, after working with somebody to help you stay on track and, saying well done and giving you the push that you need, you can fall off and go back to those same patterns. I think what's mainly stops me from going back to that is always holding on to the fact of what I know that's changed from me making those changes.
Yes.
You have to
back to
reflect
that evidence.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what's always said to me, no, not for me. And obviously working with other people, so much people afterwards, and seeing the need of people, what they, for me to go back to that it just wouldn't make sense in my life right now. So I think I always try to best I can to make sure that people see the benefit of booking that follow-up call, because that way I can make sure that you're still holding yourself to account, not necessarily me.
Absolutely. And I think it probably does have an impact on them in that way, that they know I'm going to have to check in with Char in a few months. And just that little bit that they have to do keeps them on track to be like, actually, no, I don't want to have to go there and report myself that I haven't done what I said I was going to
Literally
do.
that,
So.
yeah, exactly that. So yeah, I think that kind of helps them to kind of meet their goals.
Yeah.
And yeah, as I said, it's got to be something that they want for themselves. It's not so much about me, what I think they can achieve. It's about what they want to do with it afterwards.
And then what would you say then is maybe the more challenging part about being a money mindset coach, if there is anything that
Yeah.
you'd say?
I think the challenge is that journey, just going through the steps of helping someone to recognize what they can achieve. And when they're first at that early stage of really unpicking that limited beliefs and understanding where they are, that part's very difficult because I can see it's difficult.
It's uncomfortable,
It's
isn't it?
uncomfortable. So I think for me, I find that bit most challenging, but I know it has to happen. And I feel once we see the breakthrough on that part, we're ready to go.
Yeah.
I can't move on to the next principle unless we really get through the money and relationship and the money mindset part, because then we really get to work and think about those money boss tools.
Yeah. Okay, so then advice then that you would give to someone that's currently in debt, but they're on a low income and they're looking to pay it off. Because I think that's something that I hear a lot in my DMs on Instagram, where it's like, oh yeah, I would love to be able to pay off this debt, but like we mentioned before, cost of living is too high. I can barely afford to make ends meet, let alone pay off this outstanding debt that I have. So is there any advice or any tools or anything that you could suggest to help those people on a debt-free journey? Because I think when they hear stories like yours that you paid off 10K in 6 months, for some people they might be like, that's impossible, I can never do that.
Yes,
and because of that,
I understand.
they don't even want to start. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
any
Start
advice that you'd
somewhere.
give to them?
Yeah. And you know what? That's literally it. It's starting somewhere. But I think I just go back. What I've mainly come to mind when you said that is that sometimes people assume that having more money, you interact with money differently, or you should manage money differently. But the tools that I teach is for any income, because if you can manage less and do it the right way, when you have more, then you can obviously do better.
Yes.
So it's something that I feel that it needs to be recognized, that it's not a matter of how much money you have, it's what you do with it.
True.
How you manage that money. Someone could be on a lower income and be saving up to build land back home, for example, and they achieve it because they put certain discipline and certain steps in place. And someone could have a luxurious lifestyle and high income paying wage, but don't see their money and spending large amounts of their money on things they don't need every week because they have no idea how to manage their money.
Yeah.
So I think the main focus really is not put that extra limiting belief on yourself to say it's because of what I have coming in why I can't manage.
Okay, so that's another limiting belief.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about looking at the tools that you have and how you are interacting with that money in the first place. And I'm not saying, it's not, sometimes it may be very hard, you're low income. I'm not, saying that's not important. That's very important to recognize as a factor. But also just thinking about your own, believing in yourself that you can make a change, regardless of what you have to play with, is really key. And those tools, that financial education is most important. And also having a real talk conversation with yourself. Are you actually doing all you can to change your circumstance? Are you still trying to live outside your means? Are you trying to, live like the Joneses, as they call it?
Exactly. Keeping up with the Joneses.
Keep up with the Joneses, that's the one. Yeah, people often will say they can't afford, and as I said, totally get that. But then what are you doing, or what is priority to you that you're spending on, that you could pull back on, that may help you to be a bit more financially savvy and a bit more able to afford the things that you want to do over a longer period of time. So I think it's exactly the same advice. I think regards to your income, the advice is exactly the same. The approach I would take is exactly the same, because it really does start with the mindset, and it really does start with how you understand money and how you then apply that to what you have to play with in the first place. But if someone's in a serious amount of debt, I would always say, whether it's high income or not, is to seek advice.
Yes, that's what I would have added to it as well. Exactly.
Yeah, because that is something you can't manage on your own. If you don't have the tools, then how are you going to move forward? And then, as you said, you just say, well, it's way too big, I'm just ignore it. And what's it doing? It's getting worse and worse.
That's the thing.
And worse.
It doesn't go away.
It doesn't go away.
That interest is still mounting month in, month out, and you're getting the longer you leave it, the more
Exactly.
the more
it
it's
is.
gonna be,
Yeah.
so.
And I must say, there's been a bit more understanding, a bit more advertisement, and a bit more support out there around financial issues since we've had COVID. Some people was out of work. Some people have situations where there was let off and put into redundancy, or their business was no longer thriving, so they had to contact the lenders and explain that I can't afford to pay, my bills. So there's a lot more support out there now when it comes to financial support, in the sense of who you can contact. So I would say, if anybody is in that circumstance, seek advice, seek professional advice, speak to your lenders, go online. There's loads of those support out there.
Exactly. You've got like Step Change.
Exactly.
I can't think of any other
Even
ones
the Citizens Advice Bureau.
But even Citizens
because
Advice,
that's a good place to start, in the sense of what's in your local area.
Yes.
Because what may be in one area may not be in another area.
True,
But any that you can then have advice around setting up what we know as debt management plan.
Yeah.
Where they will talk on your behalf. You don't have to deal with them. Some people say, I just don't want to make phone calls. I don't know where to start. if you have a debt management plan in place, they would consolidate all your debts, look at what you have, and then they'll see what your ingoes and outgoings are, and they'll speak on your behalf to your lenders and discuss whether you can, make an agreement of how much you can afford to pay. And when your circumstances change, maybe you want to pay a bit more. But the main thing is there's always a solution. There's always a way out. Not to sit in it and just think it's going to disappear. It's only going to get worse.
Yes, absolutely. It's just like that saying, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're
Exactly
right.
that.
So
Exactly
it's
that.
what are you going to do about it?
What
So
you,
no,
yeah.
that's
Take
brilliant.
that.
Okay, so then in terms of people listening now, or some of our listeners now thinking, oh, my money mindset, I do try and change it, but I can't help the way I think. So as much as I want to say, yeah, I'm good with money, I'm not good with money. So what am I supposed to do about it? So what
Yeah.
kind of advice would you give, or any tips or tools that you could suggest for people in that position that want to change their money mindset, but they're struggling with it and
Yeah.
they don't know what to do about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think just to get up one day and say, I'm going to change my money mindset. It's not something we do, is it?
No.
So I would say educate yourself. If you go on YouTube, there's plenty of videos there for free teaching you about what money mindset is and what you can do. You can read up buying books. There's different things you can look at online to help you understand what money mindset is and how you can change it. That's the first and foremost, I would say. But in sense of the tools that I suggest to clients, it's a mixture of things, but different ways that you can invite more money into your life. So I think of it in a way, and how I describe it is that you want to connect to an abundant source and not a scarcity mindset source. Because if you're thinking in a place of scarcity, such as I can't afford it, I don't have it, you're going to invite more of that. And that's how I see it. If you're thinking in this place of abundance and you're saying, you know what, I have all that I need for what I need to do right now. I'm able to cover my bills. I'm able to pay for what I need to do at this current moment. You're saying that you're grateful for what you do have, and you're not saying you don't invite more to come in. So I see it in a sense of always helping people to understand connecting to an abundant source and not thinking a place of scarcity and lack is really key, first and foremost. So thinking about the words we use and changing it, because there's such a massive connection between what we think and what we say and what becomes our reality around us, what the actions that we take. So we have to change internal first before we can expect our external to change.
Yeah.
So that's again on that reflection side I was talking about earlier, sense of how we speak. So start journaling, track what you say, track things you're doing, track what's happening around you, and if anything you can tweak and turn it the other way around.
So like if, for example, I was saying, oh, I'm so rubbish with money, literally make a note of that and then
And change that completely.
Okay.
I can manage all that I have right now.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we underestimate our wins. We underestimate what we do have as a blessing around us, and that's where gratitude comes in. And, sometimes people will be saying things, well, I just don't have enough. I just don't have it. Okay, but have you paid your rent this month? Yeah, that was covered. That was fine. Okay, did you manage to eat today? Yeah, and I took the kids McDonald's this weekend. Okay, so there's something that we do have to do that. Someone out there is wishing they could do what you've just done. So because it's not where we want it to be, sometimes we just play it down. And by doing that, again, that's a place of scarcity and lack. We're not connected to the fact of we're grateful for it and we invite more of that. So it's really important to celebrate everything that we can do and the wins, no matter how small it looks to us. Just even if you had to write that down each day, I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for that money has done for you. And it's not like you're worshipping money. It's not that I'm suggesting that. It's more about you recognizing what money has done as a tool for you. And then second to that, besides the gratitude, the other side of that is giving.
Okay.
So again, I'm a strong believer in the mindset side of things of understanding the rotation of money. Sometimes people will say things they can't afford to give, or they'll say things like, they will love to be able to do more for others, but they can't because they don't have enough for themselves. But I'm not saying take everything that's in your account and give it to everyone on the street who's homeless. But what I'm trying to say is, in ways that you can empower someone or invest in someone in some way, it could be very small. Giving to somebody else was showing that you trust that it's going to come back to you.
That's good. Yeah.
And I always say that whenever I give, I always say that I trust that it returns to me in abundance. Trusting that it's going to come back to me when I need it. So not necessarily just sitting here greedy, just taking all the money, but let's be thinking in my mind that when I need that, I'm going to have that blessing back. If someone comes to me for something, I always try to make sure I can fulfill it because I know that they was brought to me for a reason.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of blocking that next blessing for myself if I don't take that, and then obviously for the next person to then bless me. So it's like a circle, it's a cycle. So I always say the giving side of things, sometimes when I work with clients, they can kind of struggle with that.
Yes, I can imagine, especially if
giving.
they're saying, if they're coming from a place of lack, to then now say, on top of me not having, I need to give.
Yeah,
it might be too much of a stretch for them. So yeah, I can understand
so
that.
it's about breaking down what that giving looks like. It could be giving of your time. It could be giving
Yeah.
of your knowledge. It could be giving in many ways.
True.
Think items that you have that you're no longer using, giving to charity. There's many ways we can give, and trust that we'll receive in abundance when we need it. And also practices every day. So things such as, affirmations. I have my affirmation cards where people can basically read an affirmation each day. I've created them in a way that there's an affirmation and a motivational message, but also a practical task you can do. So it's not just some affirmation cards that I find it's just like a wishful comment, which would be something like, I don't know, um, I love money. Money loves me. I do love that affirmation. However, that on its own, you could just look at, okay, and just put it back in your bag. So in my cards, there's three types. Where one of them actually teaches you how you can then apply that in your day to day. So it could be how you say it. It could be what you visualize when you say it. It could be about what you feel when that comes up for you when you're reading that card. All of that again homes in on your self-limiting beliefs and how you can change that. So affirmation cards, saying something every day that changes how you're positive connecting to money. Visualization tools such as vision boards are excellent. I've used that to manifest many things in my life. So you maybe want to plan towards a holiday. You may want to be getting towards your dream home. Right now, it feels like impossible because of your income. Putting that on a vision board and trusting, that it's going to come in a certain amount of time, and seeing how it is and being detailed, very detailed in your story in the sense of what you're hoping to achieve is really key, because then you're more likely inviting exactly that, rather than just wishfully saying, oh, I'd love to live in a bigger house, but you don't know where you might want it to be or what it might
Yeah.
look like. Or just be detailed. If you said the door was red,
Yeah.
just be very detailed about it. Brings it more chance of it becoming a reality later on in life. There's a story that I read in the book The Secret. I actually referred to Jim Carrey, the actor, where he wrote a check for himself and said it will come to him in full, paid in full. And he did. He basically got exactly the same amount when he did a role in a particular film. So it's often about us understanding the power of our minds and what we can achieve, but doing it in a way that we're inviting more of it into our lives by, the different daily activities and daily routine.
So then, in terms of tools that you could suggest that someone can use in order to help them become more of a money boss. In fact, what is a money boss? You talk about it a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah. Let's go to my money boss.
Yeah.
So I created the idea of a money boss because when I thought about just to go back actually, before I had my last son just now, I had a money boss membership. So I had money bosses I was working close with. So the money boss membership was actually creating women to come into this group together, support each other towards our goals, and going each month I'll teach them something around different ways they can manage their money, management, and money mindset, and then we'll invite speakers to talk about different areas about investing and so forth, savings and pensions, to build on their understanding of money. So the understanding of becoming a money boss is that you're in control of your money, you're empowered to understand your money, and you have a better relationship with your money, and that's what She's All About Money was created for. So by becoming a money boss, you need to have those three principles that I spoke about.
Okay.
So it's the money relationship, how you interact with money. Do you love money? Are you scared of money? Understand your money mindset, how you thinking about money, how you talking about money, and how do you feel about it? And then the last one is about those practical tools, which referred to as the money boss tools,
Yeah.
because they're the practical tools. That's where the real work starts to happen. You first have to work internally, and then the last one is around that external practices you're doing day to day to
Yeah.
change your financial situation and becoming a true money boss.
Amazing. Okay, that's almost a good way to end. But before you go, do you have any final thoughts, final words of encouragement or advice for our listeners all around money mindset and
Gosh,
paying off
yeah.
debt?
So I would always say, make a plan for your money before it makes a plan for yourself. Because sometimes where people will say is that they can't manage their finances because they're not making a plan for their money, not using the time that they have to make sure they know where their money's going. It's just like having children. If you don't tell them what they need to be doing, if you don't put boundaries in place, they're going to be all over the place.
Yeah.
So it's about you making sure that you have a great relationship with your money, tell your money exactly what it needs to be doing, be the boss of your money, be the management of your money, so then it can actually do more for you over time. And we shouldn't have to be working so hard for our money. We should make our money work harder for us. So
Exactly.
having access to residual income streams is also very key as well. The days of relying on one income alone is very much behind us, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah.
We need to think about ways we can use our skills and
Exactly.
our knowledge and transferable skills as well, that we can use in other ways to make other income streams for ourselves. So, yeah, I would say make a plan for your money, make a plan for itself, and also think about different ways you can maximize your income with other residual income streams
Yeah.
as well.
Any suggestions in terms of residual income
Hmm.
streams that people can do? So you mentioned one, which is obviously using a skill that you already have. So for example,
Yeah.
if you're an accountant, maybe you could do bookkeeping for someone on the side.
Yes.
That's a good one. So for somebody that says, I don't have any skills, what
Hmm.
other things could they potentially do to make money on the side?
If someone says I don't have any skills, I'll ask them to question that because we
Mm,
all have skills, right? We're all
exactly.
gifted in different ways. Maybe
Yes.
you don't realize it yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say, yeah, the work that you're in at the minute, thinking about how you can use those skills in different ways. You might be able to do some freelancing, and like you just
Mm,
mentioned, it could be something of interest to you. So, for example, for myself, separate from my money mindset coaching business, I'm also an independent travel agent as well.
okay.
So, something completely opposite to what I'm doing, but
Yeah.
it's an interest I have. It's a passion I have. I love to travel. So, thinking about what's interesting to you in ways that you can makes another income, but also is filling a need.
Mm,
So, I suppose it's going back to the question of, what is it that you feel that you're good at, and what do you think that's out there that's needed. Smaller than that, it could be things like things around the house that you're not using. My cupboards are full with the boys' stuff that they've grown out of and not using anymore.
yeah.
Selling those items to somebody else. Someone's looking for those items, and even someone who may have just had a baby. You have the cots and the prams and the buggies are so expensive. You could put things in, you maybe use them a few times. They could be in good condition or might just need a little clean up. You could advertise them online and people will buy these items second hand. So they're looking for this in a much, less of a costly way. And you're saving someone's money as well by helping them to do that. So I think finding ways around us to help us with our money is key. Being more savvy with our money, as I mentioned before about that saving, because we have to understand when you do start working for yourself, you have to understand the element of investing in yourself and paying yourself first. So often some people, I work with women who are in business and first time business owners, entrepreneurs, and they will say, I'm making money by business, but I'm not paying myself.
Mm,
You have to understand about paying yourself first, because if you don't do that, then what is it you're doing then? Is it a charity?
exactly.
What's the
Exactly.
purpose of this?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
you really have to pull that back first and understand that in sense of
Mm,
paying yourself first. And I would say start something simple like 10% of whatever you have coming in. And whatever you have coming in, 10% can work. It could be £100. You pay yourself a tenner. It could be something more. 1,000, you got £100 out of that. So understanding that you need to invest in yourself and pay yourself first, then also changes your mindset again in a sense of what you're doing and the worth in what you're offering. And then think of ways that you can use your skills to make more money. So I think the small steps you make will actually open other doors
yes.
to how you can invest in and use your money, use your skills to make more money.
Then just before you go then, Shah, if you could let everybody know listening at home how they can find you, how they can connect with you if they want to book money mindset coaching. She wants to know, they want to know more about She's All About the Money. Tell us a little bit more about what's up for you in the future and how they can connect with you.
Of course. So everyone's on the socials. They can find me under She's All About the Money. So on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Also, if they click link in my bio on Instagram or Facebook, they then can actually see all the services I have to offer and the products I have available. If you would like to get themselves a free discovery call where we can dig a bit deeper into their personal circumstances, they can find me at moneymindset.she'sallaboutthemoney.co.uk.
Okay, brilliant. And then before you go, Shah, if you have any questions for me before you go, I've asked you loads of questions today. So if you have a question for me before we close, if not, we can close here.
My question for you, I would say, I like the question you answered at the beginning. On your journey so far financially, because I know you're doing great things around money. I've been watching you on Instagram and I'm inspired. I like myself, you're a mum doing her thing as well. How on earth do you manage to stay on track of your finances? And, how do you manage to fulfill? Do you have like a budget that you have to follow all the time? Or do you have something special in place for birthdays or special occasions? How do you manage?
How do we manage? So budgeting is a
Mm-hmm.
big one for us. So I was in debt too many years ago as well, and went on a whole debt-free journey and learned about managing my finances. So up until that point, like I thought I was budgeting in my head, but it's only when I learned that no, totally. Budgeting in your head doesn't work. You need to actually know your numbers and know what the money's
Yes.
doing. That's why I could relate when you were saying about clients that you work with when they sit down and track their expenses.
Mm-hmm.
It's never what they think it is, because that's
Yes.
exactly how it was for us. Like
Mm-hmm.
what we thought we were spending versus
Mm-hmm.
what we were actually spending, it was so different. So
Mm-hmm.
while I was in debt and wanting to pay it off, I thought I couldn't afford to pay the debt off. When in actuality, it's just that I was overspending my money instead of
Yes.
being smart with the money.
Yeah.
So went on that whole debt debt-free journey, paid off that debt. Since paying off that debt and embarking on that debt-free journey, I've been very big on budgeting. So for me now, it's all about budget categories. So we have budget categories for everything. And we also do a thing called sinking fund. So you have a pot of money that you save towards an expense
Okay.
that's like once a year. So birthdays, like you
Yes.
mentioned, anniversaries, Christmas, things of that nature. It comes up same time every single year. So rather than waiting until that occasion comes and then blowing
Exactly.
that budget for the month, just save incrementally towards it.
I love that. And that goes back to what I was saying about making a plan for your money before it makes a plan
Exactly.
for itself, right? Because you told your money where it needs to go
Yeah.
and it's what it's working towards. So that sounds really good.
No, it's good.
Thanks for sharing.
No, thank you. And thank you so much for coming on, Char, today. It's
My
been really
pleasure.
amazing. And
Really
I'm
enjoyed
hoping
it.
some of the listeners will take notes and actually take action on some of the advice that you've given them in
Thank
terms of
you.
fixing their money mindset. So, no,
Yes.
thank you.
No, you're more than welcome. It's been great being on the show. So, yeah, follow me, look for me on socials. She's all about the money.
Yeah, lovely.